Morning Show will be right back. Part of the Billy C. Boxing Network.
And we're back. You're listening to the Billy C. Morning Show. Glad you could join us. Don't forget, if you're looking for a unique spice, look no further than Kenny Bear's Barbecue Rub. Check it out, southerngourmetspice.com, or just visit our website, www.billycboxing.com, and click on the Southern Gourmet Spice banner, which is located on the right-hand side of the screen. And speaking of the BillyCBoxing.com website, check it out, man. We've made some changes to the site. We've removed some things. We've added some things. And one thing I am going to promise you guys on is that there's a section that I used to write a column at least once a week. It's on the right-hand side menu. There's two menus on the website. One's on the right, one's on the left. All of our writers and contributors are on the right. Look for my column, because I'm going to be updating it every single week, and then some, maybe even more often than once a week. So check that out. Joining us right now, staple of the Billy C. Boxing shows, Daxx Khan. What's up, man?
Hey, loving this new format. Not used to having to prepare so long, to come on the show. But
what do you mean?
Well, come on, Bill. Usually at night, the day's already gone by. I'm dressed. I look good. The public, I have this image people expect me to uphold for us. In the mornings, I don't look as good. I kind of look rough like you do, and, it takes me extra time.
I got to fix that. Today, we've had some glitches, which I'm a little surprised. I had all these back from break segments that are supposed to be a lot longer, and they're not. So I'm wondering why that is. But, hey, we didn't even get a chance to talk about what you're going to talk about. Are you going to be breaking down any fights this morning, or are you going to give your thoughts on Andre Ward? Or what the hell are you doing today?
Yeah, well, there's a couple things. Well, you've already spoken about a few. Obviously, we want to touch on those. The one is absolutely very serious in terms of Nick Blackwell, and it's something that I don't know if you've seen or a lot of fans out there have seen that was caught and actually sent to me by somebody. It was very interesting that I really think needs to be highlighted. The three fights we're just going to go over real quick, Bill. The reason why I chose these three fights is for a little bit different reasons, much like, again, as you've spoken, and we continuously talk about, there's something wrong with why these fights are being pushed and they're being made, such big. And I'm curious on what happens after these fights are made and how the promoters handle these three guys. And because I think it's more of a play with these here than actually these fights mean anything.
Well, like I was saying earlier, I don't know if you were listening to the show, but we had with the Billy C. Challenge. 16 players last week. 7 got 20 out of 20. 5 got 19 out of 20. And the remainders got, the worst person scored 17, I should say people, scored 17 out of 20 at 85%. I mean, listen, no disrespect to any of us who are part of the Billy C. Challenge, but we're not that good, Dax. I mean, it's these fights that are so predictable. I mean, it's just, could you imagine if any other sport was so predictable as boxing? They would never be able to survive.
No, they wouldn't. And it's funny that you say that because, I have a 12-year-old who's a big fan of basketball. And they have these shows out now that are on ESPN, SportsCenter, and a few other places, about the brackets and how to pick them and how the points work and the odds work, and they break down each fighter. So, absolutely, there is no way that could be done in any other sport but boxing. And boxing in general, when it's done right, Bill, should be the same way. To predict guys, even when I do the breakdowns, over the time, how much I go through and how many fights that I look at from years ago, and I compare similar styles of the two guys. And it's not always about who's on top at that moment. A lot of times in boxing, it's the wrong style for the wrong guy. A classic example would be Muhammad Ali and Kenny Norton. Kenny Norton was just always all wrong for Muhammad Ali.
No, I listen. I get it, and I also get that the we can't expect to have knockout, drag out, killer fights every single time we see a fighter. I understand that, and I'm okay with it. But when you look at it collectively, for example, this past weekend, 20 fights, and I'm not talking about just fights I picked out of the air. I'm talking about substantial fights that were all on either TV or on the undercards or looked good on paper and everything else. 20 out of 20 by the majority of the people got every single one right. I mean, that's sad. That's sad.
It is. It's tough. Well, let's get the 3 fights out of the way. First, again, as I stated, I chose these 3 fights. Well, they're all interesting for different reasons. We can discuss those later on because it really has nothing to do with what's going to take place in the ring. First, on Spike Friday at a PBC card in Washington, we're going to break down the WBA super lightweight title bout between Adrian Broner and Ashley Theophane. First, also on that card, though, we're going to do the super middleweights, Jay Love and Michael Kabanga. And then Saturday, we're going to do the heavyweight bout in Helsinki between Robert Helenius and Johan Duhaupas.
Sounds good. Let's go.
All right, first up, we're going to do Jay Love and Michael Kabanga. The pros on Jay Love is he's a decent boxer. He has a huge heart. He'll dig deep. Love won't shy away from a big fight if he has to. He'll stand toe-to-toe, even though boxing is his bread and butter. Not a big puncher. The pros of Kabanga, experience. He has 24 losses, but they are current or former world champions, world title challengers, current top-ranked fighters, and he has a few in there against guys you've never seen before, but Michael Kabanga has all the experience you can really want. So those losses are misleading. He also has some serious power. He knows every trick in the book. He has a solid jab. He has a solid defense. With an 8-week camp behind him, you have a fighter who can beat or be beaten by anybody depending on what night it is he shows up. The cons on Jay Love, he kind of lacks that killer instinct. Yes, he'll get in there, Bill. He'll go in the trenches. He'll stand toe-to-toe. But Jay Love, a lot of times when he has the guy hurt, he really won't go after them. He also has a questionable chin. We've seen him hurt quite a few times, and he's only stopped once, but those times he was hurt, Bill, it was against mediocre opposition. The cons of Kabanga, they're pretty much the same as the pros. This is a guy who can bang with anyone at his best. He can box, but he's also getting beat by guys way beneath him in terms of skill because he's basically a professional opponent. His wins are not by mistake, but neither are many of his losses. Final prediction on this one, I'm going to be honest. If Michael Kabanga comes in here well-trained, which I heard he had a full camp, I'm going to go with the upset here and pick the old warhorse. I like Jay Love. He's a nice kid. Met him at a few cards. He wants to be a superstar, but you were talking about earlier that it factor. Jay Love lacks the it factor, and I don't think the chin is going to hold up against the veteran warhorse. If anything, can still punch.
Great analogy, great breakdown. And for the most part, I agree with you. I'm not a big fan of Jay Love, but I think that he's going to squeak out a win here, and I'm going to go against you. I'm going to take Jay Love, only because of the mileage that's on Kabanga, and I just think that Jay Love, although he's not going to look great, he's going to come out with the W, and I think the only way Michael can win this fight is if he knocks him out, just like you said. And I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't be rooting for it, but my official pick would be Jay Love. So what's the next one?
And again, just to touch that, I would like to see Jay Love. Don't get me wrong. But again, we can speak about that afterwards. Next, we'll do the heavyweight fight over in Helsinki. Robert Helenius against Johan Duhaupas. The pros in Helenius is he's a tall fighter. He rarely gives up his height. He's accurate when at his best. He has a 1-2 combination that brought him 22 wins. That tells us how effective the basics can be if employed correctly. Maybe if he gets win number 23, he'll start using a 3-punch combination. I don't know. That waits to be seen. The pros on Duhaupas. He's a volume puncher who works behind the jab. Despite not having heavy hands, he gets the job done with pressure and effective aggression. He uses head movement, and for a big man at 6'5", Bill, Johan Duhaupas has stamina. At his best, he will fight 2.5 minutes of every round, even when he's taking punishment. The cons in Helenius is he moves straight back, he keeps his hands low, and he tires easily, it seems. He fights in spurts, and sometimes those spurts can be few and far in between. He's very hittable. We've seen guys with more than a 5-inch reach disadvantage land a jab on him frequently. The cons on Duhaupas, evident head movement, he virtually has zero defense. He lacks power, especially for a 6'5" heavyweight. He has busy hands, but slow hands. It's not too hard to avoid Johan if you can create some distance. Now, and the cons, on Hellenius, if he moves straight back, he keeps his hands, I went over that already, my mistake here. My official pick, though, is Johan Duhaupas. In the Wilder fight, he showed he's far from a walkover, and he has a solid chin. Despite being stopped, it took massive punishment from a big puncher and a better fighter overall than Hellenius, without question, to stop him. I might be wrong here, but I think it's going to be Johan's night.
Another interesting pick, and I think Robert Hellenius is kind of a real letdown in the heavyweight division. There was so much aspirations and high hopes for Robert Hellenius, and just various reasons. I mean, this guy I don't know if he just doesn't want to fight or what the case is, and I don't even think he's that talented. When I look at Johan Duhaupas, I see a tough guy. I mean, we all saw that chin. I mean, oh my God, this is a guy that has a solid chin is an understatement. But like you said, he's extremely slow. He doesn't throw enough punches. He takes way too many.
Johan Duhaupas, I don't know how long you've been watching him. I've watched Johan Duhaupas for a few years. Anytime I was able to get a stream or something, I would watch him. After I came across his fight with Yarno Rosenberg back in 2013, when he was, I think that was a EBU title fight. Johan, he's a busy fighter, and he does throw a lot of punches when he's able to.
Yeah, well, maybe the size. I didn't really get to see that much on him, but I guess the size difference with Wilder was an issue, but. Hellenius, I'm just not impressed with Hellenius. Hellenius hasn't done much for me, although I think Duhaupas has to knock out Hellenius and to win this fight. I don't know if he can. I want Johan Duhaupas to win the fight. I do, because Robert Hellenius to me is negative for the sport, but I'm officially picking Hellenius in this one. I think Duhaupas will have to knock him out a couple of times in order to get the win in his own backyard. So I'm picking Hellenius. The last fight is the main event on Spike Friday night. Adrian Broner, who's in some trouble, which I'll talk about later on the show, but going up against Ashley Theophane, who I actually like. Tell us about this one.
All right. Again, this is on that Spike card that's going to be Friday. On the PBC card that's going to be Friday. It is for, a WBA super lightweight title. And again, if we have some time, we can speak about how come it's still going on. Adrian Broner and Ashley Theophane. The pros on Adrian Broner, he's strong. He uses a variety of combinations that keeps his opponents on the back foot. His power, while not true one-punch power, is better than average. And when he lands clean, he does get guys out with a single shot. The pros on Ashley Theophane, he's a rugged, awkward veteran who punches from odd angles. He has a tight defense, and he has a solid chin. He's never been stopped. Even in his 6 losses, this guy gives opponents fits, even at the best level. If you don't really, he trains in the gym to do things that throws guys off, and that's why Ashley Theophane so far has always been so successful in the ring against opponents, because you never know what version you're going to get. Now, the cons on Adrian Broner is his defense is very suspect. Much of that is because he insists on using the shoulder roll, which he implores subpar at best. Broner, when the fight's not going his way, never seems to have a plan B, except make it rough and at times even dirty. He lacks mental fortitude and reminds me very much, Bill, of a young Zab Judah in that way. The cons on Ashley Theophane, lack of power, and no signature win, even at 35 years old. His awkward style is a benefit, but he can be lazy. He swings his shots too wide, and he has trouble finding his distance that allows him to be effective. Adrian Broner is going to this fight way too arrogant, in my opinion. He's overlooking a slick veteran, add in his recent self-destructive behavior, lack of professional focus, and I'm going to go with the upset here. I'm picking Ashley Theophane, and honestly, I don't see it as that big of an upset, despite the odds.
Wow, you're going with 3 underdogs out of your 3 fights this week. Very impressive. I'm a big fan of Ashley Theophane. I've been following him for a long time. The knock on him is that it depends which Theophane shows up. I've seen him live a few times. I've followed his career. He's a smart kid. The problem is sometimes he fights and sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he throws punches and sometimes he doesn't. I think Adrian Broner, whether we like him or not, and he's a hard guy to like in terms of outside the ring persona and the way his personality is, etc. But let's face facts. I mean, the guy is extremely talented. He's got hand speed that works. I don't like his defensive style, but he used to stand in the pocket, and I'm hoping he continues to do that. I think this is going to be a win for Adrian Broner, and I think it's going to be an easy win. I think he's going to knock out Theo Fain because Theo Fain has never faced an opponent like Adrian Broner, and Adrian Broner, as brash as he is and as overconfident as I agree with you that he is, I think that he also needs to make a statement, and if he doesn't overwhelm Theo Fain, I think his career is in trouble. I'm officially picking Adrian Broner in this one.
If you see the trend here with all three guys that I went with, the underdogs, they all have that same thing in common. What version of them is going to show up?
Right.
When the best version of them shows up, you got a guy that can and will be competitive with anybody. But if the wrong version shows up, you got a guy that can be taken out quickly by anybody.
Exactly. Good points. So before we let you go, we got more time here to chat, and I want to talk about your thoughts on the Andre Ward fight. I mean, I know you heard some of my thoughts. I just think that, it was sickening to hear the commentating on it from everybody. First of all, Roy Jones Jr. is finished. I don't know why he brings nothing to the broadcast anymore. The accolades that were being tossed around for Andre Ward were just sickening and so biased. I mean, listen, Dax, I agree. Andre Ward is extremely talented fighter. There's no question about it. And could he be the pound-for-pound top fighter of today? Very good argument that he could be. But you know what? I believe that a pound-for-pound fighter has to be active. And I don't think we should anoint him just because he faced all that tough opposition 5 years ago and anoint him as the best fighter out there. I think he needs to prove it. With performances like he had on Saturday, those would be in a good direction to justify that ranking. However, I mean, Sullivan Barrera, is he really a big test? Does Andre Ward have a chance against Kovalev? What's your thoughts on that whole situation?
Yes, as far as the team goes, the broadcasting team, that was horrible. I was blasting them on social media continuously. At one point in time, I had to mute it. Roy Jones Jr., when he said Ward should be rated pound for pound #1 because of past accomplishments, like you said, that proves Roy Jones is done, and he should never step in the ring again, not even against another hopeless fan. Lampley and Kellerman, they were literally almost making things up as they go along. They were cheerleaders. Maybe in a few fights, Ward would be ready for Kovalev. But, the fact Sullivan Barrera is a solid fighter, he has no speed on him, and, he buzzed Andre Ward a few times. Didn't really hurt him, but he buzzed him. And if Andre Ward got hit like that against the Kovalev, even in the Donna Stevenson or an Arthur Beterbiev, you're not going to get buzzed. You're going to go to sleep. That's not an insult to Andre Ward. Those guys have legitimate power, not manufactured power, not power that can be learned in the gym, Bill. Those guys have natural-born power, and they will put you to sleep, and you cannot play with guys like that. So you can't come in there thinking that you're going to outbox them because it only takes one punch, and Sergey Kovalev has proven he's an elite boxer. He's not just a puncher.
Let me ask you this. Did you see, like I saw, that Andre Ward appeared to be acting like he's this big knockout puncher now? Or do you think he was just trying to give everything he had with every punch he was throwing and delivering?
I think he was trying to... I think they were trying to test and see maybe what he has as a puncher. Sullivan Barrera is a big guy. He's a big light heavyweight. So I think, Andre Ward was flat-footed, more or less to see, listen, if I'm going to take a punch from a big light heavyweight like this, I want to make sure that I'm planted. I want to make sure that, when I throw, my feet are solid. So I know Andre's a smart guy. He knows what these top-level light heavyweights have in terms of power and size. These are all big light heavyweights, as we keep saying. So Andre Ward was just kind of, seeing, hey, listen, can I go in here and can I do this now, and what do I have to work on later on? as far as that broadcast team, but my gosh, were they horrible. And one of the things that really insulted me, Bill, is when Jason Velez and Jojo Diaz were in there fighting. That was a good fight. And for about 2 minutes total during that fight, Jim Lampley, the whole team kind of took away attention from that fight to focus on Steph Curry and Michael B. Jordan ringside. At one time, Jim Lampley, while Velez and Diaz are having, a good exchange, says, "Oh, the crowd! They think the crowd is cheering for them, but they're not. It's for Steph Curry and Michael B. Jordan." Excuse me, you're a broadcast. Pay attention to the fight. You got young prospects here, and you're talking about who's in the house. They're all done, in my opinion.
It's funny. I got another question I want to ask you about Andre Ward and punching power. But before I do that, in that same sequence, they were talking about it's amazing how many stars later on that night when Andre Ward came out. They're going, it's amazing how many stars came out to see Andre Ward, elite fighters, elite athletes coming to watch other elite athletes. And I'm saying to myself, really? Is that the reason they came? Or are they under contract with Rock Nation Sports and they're all showing their support? Or are they happen to be in the neighborhood and got some passes to come? Because, I just don't know if these top athletes even know who Andre Ward is. He's just not a known commodity. And one other thing I want to throw at you about Andre Ward is, according to Max Kellerman and Jim Lampley, one of Andre Ward's goals is to win a world title at heavyweight, a la Roy Jones Jr. I don't see that happening against today's heavyweight division. There's not a heavyweight out there that wouldn't land a punch on Andre Ward, and you talk about going to sleep. I don't think he's going to get past Sergey Kovalev at 175, let alone fighting a heavyweight, at least any of the title holders today. I just don't think that he'll be able to hurt them, and I think that they will be able to hurt Andre Ward.
Well, Roy Jones, of course, had to mention his fight against John Ruiz, and Lampley, of course, had to give a plug for him and Max, I believe, for the movie Creed, and that's why they brought up Michael B. Jordan. And again, you're right in terms of the stars that were there. Doesn't Steph Curry, I'm not a big basketball fan, sadly enough, doesn't he play out of that arena?
Yeah, he plays for the Warriors.
Yeah, so, why wouldn't he be there? Like you said, I don't think they all showed up for Andre Ward. And at all fight cards, it doesn't matter where it is, even small cards. A lot of times you go to club shows, cards that don't have big celebrities on, big name fighters on there. You'll see celebrities at. Just because they're celebrities doesn't mean they're not fight fans.
Exactly. Hey, one last question. Virgil Hunter, is he that good? No. I agree, man. He's along the lines of Andre Rozier. And speaking of Andre Rozier, on Friday night, he was in the corner of a couple of the fighters who won, and I saw the same stuff with this guy. He says, "How you feel? How you feel?" The trainers today are not teaching. Listen. You give me a fighter with 300 let me rephrase that, 300 international amateur fights under his belt, and I'll be able to train him too. Show me how good a trainer is by taking a kid from the time he put on his gloves into the pros. Now, Virgil Hunter does have that on his resume, Dax, but I see a guy that maybe their relationship is so far along that a lot of teaching is not taking place during a fight. And I believe that should be the case with good trainers. I think the time to learn and to teach and to experiment is in the gym during the preparation. The time to follow the game plan and make adjustments is during the fight. And maybe Virgil Hunter does do that.
I'm sure they do, and they've been together a long time. I'm not saying Virgil Hunter is a bad trainer. I'm not taking anything away from the man. He's accomplished. But as far as the accolades that he gets from a lot of people, there's a lot of other trainers that I believe are better than he is. As far as the guys this weekend who I was most impressed with, Ivan Baranchyk is real. If this was December 31st, Bill, at 11:59 p.m., and he was fighting Nicholas Gvan, that KO would be KO of the year. The way he hit him, drove him across the ring in 11 seconds. That was scary.
I tell you, when he went down, that was the end of that. on that, and I have it a little more, 21 seconds, but
In total, but I think the actual punch was like 11 seconds.
Yeah. 21 seconds of the fight, and Baranchak improved to 10-0 with 9 knockouts over Nick Gaivan, who loses for the first time in his career. He's 16-1 now. Also on that card, Regis Progress improved to 17-0 when he took care of Aaron Herrera, which was kind of a shocking result. Herrera is usually a fighter that goes a distance. I mean, he was counted out at 2 minutes and 17 seconds, and that included a pause in the count. It seemed to me that Herrera had no intention of getting up, that maybe that's what he was supposed to do. What do you think?
That could be. Figueres, I like him, but he really does need to step it up against somebody a little bit. And again, no disrespect to Herrera, but I would like to see a fight another guy who was successful this weekend in the same weight class, and Antonio Orozco.
Yeah, he took care of Acosta pretty quickly in their fight as well. 1 minute and 54 seconds into the first round. Orozco improves to 24-0 with 16 knockouts. Acosta drops to 29-8. Just to round it out, the Showtime card, Ivan Golub improved to 11-0 with 9 knockouts when he scored a 6th-round stoppage over Marlon Agos, and that was the fight I was talking about with what's his name as the trainer. What's his name? Who's the guy I'm thinking of that I'm critical of as a trainer? Andre Rozier. I think he's terrible. And also, Justin D. Loach improved to 14-1 with 8 knockouts when he took care of the hometown kid, Dylan Cook, losing for the first time. And as we all heard, Justin DeLoach was also the being trained by Paul Williams, at least on paper. It looked like Paul Williams' trainer was actually the trainer. But that kid looked like he's got some potential, DeLoach.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of similarities with Paul.
Yeah, the height and everything else. That's why,
and the way he carries his arm and the way he throws the jab out, I've seen a lot of similarities.
Well, that's good for both Paul Williams, DeLoach, and I guess I'd throw in the other trainer because, they're all used to that body type and that style and all that stuff. But anyway.
One thing we have to touch on, Bill, before we end this, I don't know if we want to take a break, but we need to speak a minute about what happened over in England with the Chris Eubank Jr. and Nick Blackwell fight.
All right, well, let me take a break, and we'll come back to that. We'll be back in about 2 minutes. Dax will give us his thoughts on Nick Blackwell, who we talked about earlier, who's in an induced coma right now. At least that's what we think. So give us 2, and